Well, it's 5 after, so we'll give it a go here, and we'll have some people joining in. Welcome to everybody to the 2021 MAPGA Online Education Series. This has been a fun run for us to do these, and we're getting a lot of participation from all over the world. And we put this one out here. It was mass hysteria joining one of the rock stars of junior golf, James Hong. So thank you all for joining. Do you like that intro, James? If you missed what I said earlier, if you're a PGA member, please put your name and PGA number in the chat. We will use those for MSRs. And then also, if you have questions, everybody should be muted. Please leave it that way. It never fails. We get, one. So far, we've had a 4-letter word dropped in one, and we've had somebody sit on their dog with their open mic on another one. And that was a really interesting sound for Michael Breed. Oh, I hear one open mic in the back.
I said I wanted chicken salad, not tuna.
Yeah, exactly. We might have to mute yours, James. So please make sure you stay muted. And again, throw in some questions in the chat feature. James is going to present a little bit for us for a bit here on his programming. But if your questions come up in the chat, I have license to interrupt him and throw the questions in there so we can make sure we're answering your questions. And then we will save time at the end as well. Not a super hard stop on this, but we try and keep these to about an hour max. Okay. So without further ado, I want to introduce my friend, James Hong, Director of Instruction at Harbor Links in Port Washington, New York. James, how are you, man? Thanks for coming on with us.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you all for asking me to come speak. This is a real honor. Thank you very much.
James, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let us get right into it, man. Let me go in here and make you a host so you can do that screen share.
Okay.
And
got it.
Rock and roll. And again, everybody, put your questions in the chat feature if you have them. Even if you know them now, I can always write them down or go back to them. So, James, fire away, man.
Well, like I said, thank you all for coming on in and spending your Monday afternoon with me. Hopefully, I know a lot of you are looking in just kind of maybe some curious what I'm going to talk about. Others looking to revitalize their junior program, or maybe you're looking to start something up. So hopefully, what I provide you with, the info, is helpful. And some of you might already be doing some of this stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff that I do or that I talk about. And so maybe it's good that you're getting kind of affirmation that you're on the right track, so to speak, or that somebody else is doing the same thing or similar stuff. Others might get some ideas and kind of like, oh, I never thought about that. And like, I've actually got my notepad here as well, because I'm always finding out when I do these things that there's always somebody saying something like, oh, you know what? I never thought about that. And I write that down and kind of think about it more and look into it. Another thing I'll say is, since we're going for about an hour, if it turns out you have a question for me later on or something, or we didn't get to something, feel free to contact me. So all of my social media stuff will probably be up at the end of this. So don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Give me a ring or give me a message and I'll gladly get back to you right away. Okay. So when I was putting this together, I had this whole presentation. I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be so amazing. I mean, I'm just going to be like, I was patting myself on the back, whatnot. And so let me just do this here. And I spent the other day, I was going through it, kind of doing a run through, and this occurred to me.
Losing is a disease as contagious as bubonic plague, attacking one but infecting all. But curable. Now I want you to imagine you are on a ship at sea on a vast.
What about me? What do I do? Do I just stand there like an object? No. You do an eclectic celebration of events. You do Fosse, Fosse, Fosse. You do Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham. Or Twyla, Twyla, Twyla. Or Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd. Or Madonna, Madonna, Madonna. You keep it all inside. All right, just work on that. I'll be right back. Looking wonderful.
Now, usually I use that video for telling instructors, be yourself when you're working with students, but it occurred to me that I was doing my run through for this, that the top video was exactly what I had provided. It would have been the most boring presentation that you would have ever seen. And I'd much rather have what was on the bottom. So we're going to kind of like, I changed this around a lot over the last 48 hours. Now, we're all looking at our junior program. So here's a cover picture of a magazine that came out, I think about 15 years ago. And I don't know if you can see me there all the way in the corner because the kids seem to be the same height as me. And this is one of the summer camp groups. You see there's about, 15 kids there. And the reason why I bring this up is because now this happens. And this is 10 of the kids in that picture. And, if I sound like I'm a little choked up, every time I see this picture, I just kind of like get a little lump in my throat because these are 10 of those boys. These 10 boys grew up together since like first grade, kindergarten. And this picture that you see here is the last day they're home before they go off to college for their freshman year. And what they decided to do was to come in and surprise me and spend 3 hours with me and do a last hurrah junior camp with me. And so these kids, these 10 boys have been with me for 8 years. Every summer they would come for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. Sometimes they would bring more friends, or some of them couldn't make it. Maybe they had lacrosse camp or something like that. But when they showed up, they were sitting there and they kind of like to me, they just looked like regular guys just hanging out. And then all of a sudden they jumped up and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you guys. And they go, come on, we're going to do a junior camp for 3 hours. We're going to do one last round. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. These guys were awesome. And I think this is kind of what we're looking for, that, it's great if one of our juniors becomes a tour player or gets a college scholarship. But for me, this is going to be one of the highlights of my career. And so this is kind of a little insight into what I'm hoping I could pass on to a lot of other people as well. Now, those of you that follow me probably saw me posting this the other day. This is the spring programs that we offer here at Harbor Links. Now, this is just for the beginner kids. So we call this the PAR program. Now, we opened this up for registration on Wednesday, February the 3rd at 11 a.m. 20 minutes later, Friday was completely filled. And by 4 p.m., this is all filled up. So this is I'd say about 65, 70 kids here right away. About 2/3 of them are returnees. 1/3 of them are new. And like I said, my emails was just clogged because of this. So obviously we're doing something, and I'm hoping that this is something that the rest of you are experiencing as well. I know with everything that we went through with COVID last year, you probably noticed an uptick in lessons if you were teaching, an uptick in junior programs especially. So we had that wonderful rush of students last year. The key for 2021 is how do we keep them coming? How do we keep them in the game? And so if you're providing an atmosphere, an environment for them to want to come back, this is what's going to happen to you.
Hey, James.
Yep.
One question up here already from Alan O'Sullivan. How many kids per class?
It is 5 per instructor. And some of these days, like Monday and Tuesday, it's just 1 instructor. So that'd be 5 kids in those. Other days have 3 instructors. So that'd be 15 kids. So Thursday has 15 kids. Friday has 15 kids. Saturday and Sunday. So only Monday and Tuesday have 5 kids.
Good.
Now here's Leah. This is when she was 8 years old. She started out here. This is her just this past fall, preparing for a Hurricane Junior Golf Tournament. This is Ryan. I think he's either 5 or 6 in this video. Oops, let me show you this. And how sick is that? And it wasn't just one ball, there's a bunch of them there. So he could hit this shot at about 5 years old, 6 years old. And of course, this picture that I popped up over here is him at 10 years old this past fall. This is Rena here in this picture. I think she's 4 or 5. And this is Rena at the age of 12 just last week. So what you're seeing here is a lot of long-term students. This is a lot of the kids who are in our, I guess you want to call it your elite junior program, advanced junior program. Now, the point that I'm making here is not about creating elite juniors. If that happens, so be it, right? That's not the point of this. The point is you're creating something where the kids want to come. It's a part of their lives. Like I said, these programs, these kids are coming 5 years, 7 years, 8 years even. Now, what's also interesting about all of these kids that are in our, you want to consider our elite juniors, they all started here as beginners. So they grew up with us. All 3 of these that you see here that I posted, they all walked through the door as beginners with me. So again, creating a culture and environment where the children can really thrive and grow. Basically, they see me as a third parent. So what's kind of going on here over the years at Harbor Links? In 2003, my first year here, spring, summer, fall programs, private lessons, I'm talking about juniors, took up 297 juniors total for the entire year. In 2020, we had 490 kids in our summer programs alone. 65 in the fall PAR program for beginners. Now remember, this is with social distancing. We lost April and May and almost all of June because of COVID. We didn't start up till the first week of July. We actually lost our first week of summer camps. So considering that, this is some astronomical numbers for us. In fact, when I did a comparison to 2019, we actually made up 91% of the prior year's lessons or junior program attendees. Now, on top of that, except for 45 kids during the summer program, none of these were my students. So what you're seeing here is actually minus me. This is our staff. So that environment that we're creating here is something that people, they want to be here. The parents want their kids here. The kids want to be here. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably been using slogans like this with your students, especially juniors, telling them, hey, it's okay to hit a bad shot. Failure is simply an opportunity for success. Fail means first attempt in learning. Don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid to not try. Never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat. All wonderful quotes, very inspirational. But I didn't put these up here for your students or my students. I put these up here for you. What I would like you to try and consider, because I did this, is that try anything, right? One of the great things that happened to me in my first year, at the end of the first year, the general manager, Keith Miller, called me into his office after, and he said, so what do you think of our junior programs? I said, oh, they're really good. He says, do you have any advice, anything you think would work? Yeah, I've got some ideas. And he said, next year, let's do everything. His attitude was throw it up against the wall. Let's see what sticks. And that has been what I've done every single year since then. You're trying to do anything possible to make this a place where juniors want to be here, kids want to be here, parents want their kids to be here as well. You knew this was coming. So what this video is basically about is trying things, finding the pieces, little pieces of the puzzle or little pieces of the kit, putting them together, see what fits, see what you come up with. And you keep adding on. And if things don't fit, we'll find something that fits or maybe rearrange it. Because as you put things together little by little, things start to take shape. Remember the programs that I showed you, that was back in 2003 till now. None of this happens overnight, but you want to start somewhere. Start, like I said, throwing things up against the wall, seeing what sticks. If it doesn't work, either revamp it, see why it didn't work, or throw it out and find something else, try something else. So there's a lot of things out there that you could try. There's Operation 36. There's US Kids Golf Certificate. All of this, so many programs out there, wonderful programs for junior development. So you can go out there and see what works for you. Don't be afraid of trying it out. Remember, this is what junior golf used to be. You dump out a bucket of balls, you give a cut down shaft, cut down club to your kid, tell him, go ahead, hit the balls. And that was it. That was your junior program right there. Now, the funny thing about this video is this is Madison when I think she was 8 or 9. This took us 4 takes because what was happening was I was handing her a men's 9-iron with a dynamic gold S300 shaft in it, I think. And oh no, nip-on shaft. Okay. She kept hitting every ball like dead straight, hitting like 9-irons, 85, 90 yards. I kept looking at her going, no, Madison, you're supposed to hit bad shots, not good shots. But that was junior golf. Now, or what up until the last couple of years, was you started creating developmental programs. So all of these things that I'm listing here, this was kind of what we started to move towards. Wow, I'm going to make a real big golf academy. We're going to have so many kids coming. We're going to develop some great players.
Hey, James.
But this is what junior golf is becoming now.
Hey, James.
And a lot of it is because of what we've, yep.
Sorry, man. I think you're changing the slides, but I don't know if it's just me or everybody else, but you're frozen up. So I just want to make sure, because I think you're talking, but we're not seeing what you're doing unless you moved away from her video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're frozen on at least on my
right
screen.
now.
Same frozen.
Yeah.
You guys are all frozen?
Yeah, well, you are. I can hear your audio fine, but your video is not moving.
It's frozen for me too.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Just want to make sure it's not just me. So,
Yeah. Let me try this. I'm going to stop share.
okay. Yeah. Just give it a jostle. I'm sure we can get it back.
Yeah, I'm getting the circle of death now. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
All right, we're back to the group here.
You still on me, or is that presentation popping up?
No, I just got your right now I've got your box is no video on your box. It's just black. So no screen share as of the moment.
You know what I'll do? Get out of this.
Appreciate your patience, everybody. Welcome. We all know this new world of Zoom, unfortunately.
You just see that blank box, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you unshare it?
Won't even let me there. You know what? I'm going to do this.
James, if you need to, I mean, if you need to pop off and then re-enter into the meeting and just see if that does anything for you, we can do it. I mean, even if you need to.
Let me try that.
Okay, no worries. We'll hang for a sec for you. No worries. Everybody grab a drink. And again, feel free to put the questions in there. And I tell you what, while James is doing that, everybody, while everybody's on, I'll use the time If you're gonna jump off, James, just to give everybody a reminder, and I'll post this stuff too. Next Monday, we're doing another one with Mark Blackburn, our 2020 PGA National Teacher of the Year. Coaches Kevin Chappell, Mike Weir. I think he's coaching Max Homa now. So hope you all will join us for that one. He's going to be talking about ground forces. So it should be a good one.
You see me there?
Oh, hey, there you are. You're down there now on me. Yep, I got you.
Okay. You don't have to share the screen. It's all right.
Well, you want me to put you back on host and see?
No, you can. I'm wondering if it was the presentation that's creating the issue. So I can be like this. All of that stuff was just complimentary to what I was going to say anyway.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So getting back to what I was saying, it's like things are different now. It's no longer just, hey, I'm going to build an academy and it's going to be a developmental program. What you're looking at now is you're looking with everything that we have to deal with COVID, with social distancing. You want to create an atmosphere, an environment where the kids are going to feel welcome. And what you're looking at is you are probably now becoming a couple of things to them. You're becoming the new gym class. So like one of the videos I would have popped up, you just see the kids exercising during the class. So some of you might already be doing that as part of the warm up. Maybe the first 15 minutes of a program, a group program is that. Well, a lot of gym classes are getting cut by the education system, education budget cuts. Also, what's happening is because of social distancing measures, gym classes are being cut out. Kids are not going to be in school because of virtual learning. So you become their new gym class. So that's something that you might want to consider putting into your programs if you haven't already. The other thing you're doing is you're providing social distancing guidelines. So one of the things that happened to us is that parents were considering sending their kids to our programs, but they wanted to know how we were going to take care of things. So putting everything on a PDF and sending it off to all of the parents, this is what we're doing, and constant communication, letting them know that we're on top of it, that things are always evolving. So anytime there was a change to our policy, I would let the parents know right away. And once our summer program started up and the parents were dropping it off, they could see everything was in place. They could see what we were doing. And I think what happened, and I got a lot of messages from parents saying, just thankful. It's like not even about the golf. They were just saying, thank you so much for providing a wonderful atmosphere for the kids. They loved it. They loved being there. They had so much fun. They kept coming back and telling stories of everything they were doing. And you know how kids are when they get in the car. Hey, what'd you do today? Nothing. Oh, hit balls. Right. So the fact that they're getting in the car and they're actually telling stories is such a wonderful thing to find out. Now, so again, the kids are stuck at home. They feel helpless. And so the mental toll that they must be going through is astounding. I know one of the things that really helped me out was that my two boys, they're in high school. Their schools had a Zoom meeting with the parents talking about some of these issues that your children might be going through. And when I was going through this, I was like, this is an amazing thing. I need to do this with my students and with the kids in our program. So I turned right around and I held a Zoom meeting as well. And I had all the parents, whatever, come in and talk to them. We didn't talk at all about golf, junior golf, nothing. It was all about what they must be experiencing at home. And the parents were asking me questions. Well, what about this? Or I was telling them, if you're noticing your kids are a little edgy, it's because of this and stuff, and giving them an outlet. And they were very appreciative. And again, what it is you're building trust with the families. And what a lot of the parents know is they know that I'm a father too. So what's happening is they see that I'm not only sympathizing with them, I'm empathizing with them. And that's carrying through into the programs that we offer. And again, going back to the programs themselves, the kids are coming, they're having a great time, and they're going back home and they're saying, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep doing this. And I think that kind of is the reason why we're seeing right away that our programs are filling up. We haven't even advertised yet, and we're already filled up for the spring. So again, creating that environment, creating a culture where the parents feel safe with their kids, sending their kids here. The kids not only feel safe, but they feel a nice escape from what it is, what everything else they're going through.
Hey,
Now,
James.
yep.
Real quick, just a question popped up, and this was actually one that I wrote down in my notes too, because you were mentioning your other coaches. One of the questions that came up was, are the other coaches fellow professionals or college kids or club staff? And what does payment look like for the other coaches? And part of my question in that too was sort of getting into that maybe just a little bit so everybody understands the needs for the program in terms of personnel and training.
Yeah, we have a staff of 4 teachers, 4 full-time instructors. And on top of that, we also have 2 additional PGA members that are that work on the golf in the shop that are also part-time instructors. So they would be the assistants. On top of that, what we did this year, because one of the things that everything is so new to us, everything is so reactionary. What if one of the instructors suddenly tested positive or had to go into self-quarantine for an extended period of time? We suddenly were left without a teacher, but we had a group of kids that we couldn't just cancel the program on them. So what we did was we actually had a couple of the high school kids that are serious golfers. And also what they'd done is they'd done community service with us the last couple of years, volunteering their services for the summer camps. So I contacted all of them and said, hey, would you like to come in and do it again? And also, you would actually be an employee. We would pay you for it. So we had 3 high school boys come in. They signed up, and they were our assistants. And that was just a home run for us. That really helped out. And it was a great experience for them because just like the kids that I mentioned that are in the program, those 3 boys were kind of going through the same thing themselves. Their high school season was canceled. They're feeling frustrated because they can't get out of the house. They can't go play golf or something like, or they couldn't do something that they normally would. They couldn't go out with their friends. So this was a wonderful experience for them. And one of them actually, I saw that what he wrote an essay about it, and the father managed to send me the essay. And the thing that really really got me was the fact that he wrote, in spite of everything that was going on, this was the best summer he ever had. And so to hear that, from a 16-year-old teenage boy who's probably going through some raging hormones and some, peer pressure and just like whatever he's going through, that was a great thing to hear. So again, mentorship, culture, environment, not just for the students, but also for the kids that are working here.
Cool.
So actually, before I continue, any other questions? Anybody have some questions that they want to ask?
Yeah, feel free, folks, to put them in the chat there for us for sure. And James, if at any point you feel like you need to get your presentation out or whatever, you could also, if you need to, you could email it to me. Maybe I can share it if you need it. But
yeah,
you fly as you need here, so you can keep going.
Yeah. So I know that some of the things that people were asking about earlier was, well, what kind of programs are we offering? So we tier it kind of like a martial arts school. I know a lot of places do the same thing. So we have several programs. One's called the PAR program. That's for beginners, and that's our biggest one. So that's the one that you saw. The spring camp was all filled up. Then the next one is called the Birdie program. And the Birdie program is for kids that have a little bit of experience. They kind of have a handle on the situation. They're beyond just being a beginner. They've got some experience being on the golf course, or they're taking some lessons, and they like it. They want to keep doing it. They want to be a little bit more serious about it. They're not necessarily competitive. They just want to play more. So that's the Birdie program. And that's basically a skills development program. The next level up would be called the Eagle program. And now the kids, they're really into it. And what happens is they're thinking, you know what, I might even want to be competitive. Maybe I want to play high school golf. Maybe I want to be even more serious and play in individual tournaments. And then the highest level is the Elite program. And that one is, of course, those kids who are like really serious and beyond. So we kind of have this pyramid, but we don't see it as like a pyramid like this, right? Where we put the elite level on top. We see it as the other way around, right? Where it's an upside down pyramid. So our focus is mainly on those first 2 levels. And like I said at the very beginning, our goal is not to develop elite juniors. Our goal is to develop juniors, to develop kids. And one of the things that I tell kids all the time is like, I don't care if you decide you don't want to play golf anymore. That's okay with me, but what we're teaching them is life lessons through golf. And so hopefully they're taking that with them. Now, in terms of how we run the programs, what is it we're doing? Well, of course, by now you probably have seen tons of junior speakers talking about making the game fun for juniors, make the game fun for juniors. So we all understand that part now. That aspect is pretty common knowledge. How we go about doing that is really important, and using golf to provide that service. So what we do is, and this is probably the number one question that I get from other instructors, is how do we go about doing that? So what we do in every class is, what is the skill we're developing, right? So let's take putting speed, for example. Well, we do the warm-ups, and after the warm-ups, we're on the putting green, and practice stations are set up that focus on that particular skill. So let's say it's speed. So what we do is we like to provide stations that actually look like golf, right? So what happens is if they're putting to a real hole, or what we do is we have white discs that look like real holes. We put them on the green, and then an alignment stick, let's say 3 feet past the hole. And then we're just telling them, can you putt the ball, see what it's like? How hard would you roll it to putt at a certain distance? So maybe we might give them specific distances. We might actually say, don't try to make it in the hole. Can you purposely leave it short? Can you now hit it past the hole? Can you go short, long? So that's the Goldilocks effect there, and getting them to get a feel for it. Now, one of the things we also tell them to do is roll the ball by hand first, kind of see how fast or how slow the ball is moving. And then after a couple of rotations of just rolling the ball at different distances, then turn around, pick up your putter. Let's see if you can tap the ball, replicate what you were just doing. And so not a lot of hands-on instruction. We're letting the kids self-discover, but it's guided self-discovery. Then what we do is we play a game that focuses on that skill. So now what it is they're learning, they're now transferring it into a game-like format. And so one of the games we have is we have those like E-ring circles, right? Or eye-line circles that are around the hole. So all of the kids will stand, like we have a group of 5. So 5 kids will be standing on the circle, and I'll call out a number like 6. Now everyone takes 6 steps, puts their ball down, putts back to the rings and the hole. So if you get it inside of the big ring, it's 1 point. If you get it inside of the small ring, it's 2 points. If you get it in the hole, it's 3 points. And we'll go around, let's say 6, 7, 8 times. And then whoever has the most points at the end of those rounds is the winner. And we give them something like a sleeve of balls, or if it's summer camp, we give them an extra snack, something like that. And the kids really get into it. So again, taking that skill that they're learning, and we're not getting really in depth with it. We're not trying to teach tour players, right? So just the basic knowledge of it, and then transferring that into a game-like format. Now, one of the things that I really, really encourage with the kids, and I would encourage instructors to do, because you know how kids think, and adults do it too, but definitely kids, everything's pass fail. And if they don't hit a good shot, I really suck. I'm so bad at this. So what I do with the kids is whenever they hit a shot or they hit a putt, the first question I ask is, what do you think you did really well there? And sometimes the kids go, I didn't do anything well because they hit a bad shot. Well, how was your grip? My grip was okay. How was your stance? Stance was good. All right, so you did a couple of good things there. What else did you do well? And they get the idea very quickly. And then what I say, then the next thing I say is, if you had to do that shot again, what do you think you need to do to make it better? And then they'll come up with something, get my club face more left. Good. What do we call that? Closed. All right, let's try it. And then they hit the shot. And then of course, sometimes what happens, they overcorrect and the ball goes too far left. And I call that too much chocolate on the sundae. And they always look at me like I'm a crazy old man. What do you mean by that? And so I always have little catch sayings. And too much chocolate means you go to your favorite restaurant, after you have a great dinner, you order the chocolate sundae. Waiter brings out the sundae, and all of a sudden you go, hey, waiter, you didn't give me enough chocolate. Can you give me a little bit more chocolate? Oh, sorry, Mr. Russo, no problem. Comes back out, dumps a gallon of chocolate on your sundae. sorry about that, Mr. Russo, I gave you too much chocolate. No, 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 there's no such thing as too much chocolate. Love
agree.
chocolate. Kids, they're like, oh, right? So I love it when a kid hits a ball and I say, what do you think of that? He's like, too much chocolate, James. Yeah. All right. So if you notice in that whole thing, nothing was about, what did you do wrong? Why did you hit a bad shot? Everything was about, hey, listen, you did okay here. Now let's see if we can make it better. If you can get over that mental hurdle of thinking everything is pass fail, that's a big step in the right direction, right? And the kids really appreciate that on all levels. That whole thing, that's not just for the 6-year-olds. I use that with the 16-year-olds. I use that with Rena, the girl that you saw at the beginning. So it goes across all levels of skill.
James, a couple questions have popped up here, so we'll go pop a couple of these in here for you. First one, because you talked about your levels and the reverse pyramid. How do kids, David is asking, how do kids move from one level to the next? So how's the progression work?
Yeah, we do skills assessments, but we don't do like a hard skills assessment because in other areas of the country where maybe they have warm weather all year round, for example, let's say California, those things are a little bit easier to do. But when we're up here in the Northeast, like you're experiencing the snow as well, what happens is sometimes kids are afraid of committing to something. So what we do is instead of it being like, you need to get 7 out of 10 inside of the circle when you're chipping, what we'll do is we'll take an initial number. Hey, how many out of 10 did you get inside the circle? Well, I got 3 out of 10. Okay. All we're trying to do is can we get that either the same or better? And then if all of a sudden they're consistently getting, let's say, 6 out of 10, we're telling them, hey, keep it up, right? Looks like you're getting really close to the birdie level, or the eagle class, right? So they're kind of like, okay, as long as I'm showing improvement, as long as I'm trying and giving my all, that's what's going to help me get there. Now, we're not talking about participation trophies here. What we're just saying is right, understanding that it's about improvement. And going back to what I was saying about asking them questions, it's amazing how many kids will just shrug their shoulders and go, I don't know. They're afraid to answer. Now, either they really don't know, which is okay, or they do know, but they're afraid that they're going to give you the wrong answer because they see you as their school teacher. When they hear teacher, they think school teacher. So when you ask them a question, they're like, what's the right answer? What's the right answer? I don't know what the right answer is. Oh my God, I'm going to fail this test. What does the teacher want, right? What does Alan Smith want me to say? Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? So right away, I put them at ease and I say, listen, there's no red pen in my hand. This is not your report card, right? I'm not putting red X's and saying, see me after class and calling your parents up from the principal's office, right? This is golf. And they kind of start to loosen up and ease up and realize, oh, okay. And I tell them, when I ask you a question, I'm actually asking you because I don't know. All right. You're teaching me just like I'm teaching you. And so again, it goes back to that environment that we're creating, that it's not threatening to them. And I think, like I said, the kids feel that. They understand that. And what's really cool about, let's say, the summer programs is that all usually happens the first day. And that's for the little kids, it's Tuesday to Friday. That's all Tuesday. That's breaking down all of those barriers and the resistance. By the time we get to Thursday, they'll hit a putt and they'll be like, you see how I did there? You see how like I kept it short of the hole? I'm always hitting it too hard, right, James? I hit that one short. How was that? Right. So that's all you're looking for, that they're really having fun, that they're engaging themselves, and they're not afraid of failing.
James, you've got a good, I've been to your place and you've got a nice setup at the back of the range there, and also have, because this leads to our next question from Aaron. What do you offer for kids around play on the golf course? And you've got a nice setup for that.
Oh yeah, for play. Well, we're lucky and that our golf, we have an 18-hole championship course, full-length golf course, and we also have a 9-hole executive course. And the 9-hole executive course is actually quite challenging. It's like a miniaturized golf course, to be honest with you. So we're lucky in that we can take the kids out on either course, and we're responsible enough as the teaching staff to not clog up the tee times. So if we see there's openings, we might just grab a student right away and say, hey, let's go out, let's play 2 or 3 holes. In terms of our programs, we actually will book tee times. So that's priced into the tuition. Now, what the golf course has done is they've been very reasonable in terms of they're not charging us a full greens fee, because we're not going out there and playing 18 holes or 9 holes. We're probably only out there for about 5 holes, and then they're going home. So in that case, it's like maybe $5 per kid every time we're out there. And so that's all part, like I said, it's all priced into our tuition. But we do have greens fee, we do have tee times available. And we're very fortunate in that our management has said, sure, go ahead, take the tee times. That's cool, right? There's no like, hey, you know, you guys, you're taking too many tee times. You're taking them away from the public. So it's a very progressive mentality from management. And I think that's all coming hand in hand because they're seeing how it's benefiting the facility as a whole. And I know that's not always something that happens in our business.
James, real quickly on that point too, just sort of for clarification in terms of the programming, are you on the fly sort of going to the golf course at times, or is that always a built-in part of what you're doing that day, part of the program that day?
Yeah, good question. I should have been clear about that. It's actually both, believe it or not. So, and what I mean by both is that sometimes the kids are doing really well with something. And again, I'm going to focus on the beginner level. Is they're doing really well with something, and you know, the practice greens, for instance, are very flat. Well, I might turn around and go like, oh my goodness, there's no one on 7, 8, or 9. I might just grab my group of kids, go right on to 7, which is like a really tiered green, and say, hey, let's play, you know, cow pasture pool on a really hilly green. And then they go like, whoa, and stuff like that. So, but in terms of a little bit more structured, yes, our 6-week program, the first 4 weeks are on the practice area, going around in different stations, learning different things. The final 2 weeks are either on the 18-hole course or the executive course. Now, in the past, we've put them on the executive course, and we've kind of done a sort of like an Operation 36 type thing where we might play them from 50 yards and in, and then work their way back. But with COVID, what we were doing was the last tee times available to the public were at 3:30 in the afternoon. So what we were able to do with the fall camps and the afternoon summer camps was take the kids out at 4 p.m. So they got to go out on the full length championship course as well. But yeah, that's part of the program. It's structured in.
Okay. We got some other ones popping up on here, man. So I'm gonna fire them off to you. And we've got probably 2 here I can sort of combine, but we'll start with Rick Zarlango, who's bringing up sort of a discussion point here, and probably, you know, getting your take on this. But on the age of when to help or help decide that the junior is pointing towards elite, and Rick makes a good point here that it's changed a lot in the last 2 years. It's kind of getting younger, it seems like. Can moving too early into competitive risk burnout or dropout altogether?
Yes, definitely. It can risk dropout, but you know, it's a tricky question because part of what we're trying to do is we're trying to rein in both the parents and the kid and say, no, don't worry about it. You know, the old line, no one cares that you're the best 8-year-old in the county, right? It doesn't really matter. Only your family cares. But sometimes that locomotion is at full steam. And so if they're not going to slow down, then you have to be the guidance to them. So that means if they're playing in tournaments, it's like, okay, you want to play in 5 US kids golf tournaments? That's fine. Let's space them out so it's only once a week or once every other week instead of having 2 or 3 a week, which I've seen parents do. And just letting them know, hey, you know, it's okay. Space it out, give them a break. And when you start to see the signs of burnout, is tell them about it. Hey, listen, let's take a break here. Or when they come in for their practices or their lessons, is maybe you're lightening up the load so that maybe it isn't full on Well, let's work on that wrist alignments, on those wrist alignments there at the top of your backswing there, Jimmy. It might be like, you know what? Let's try and hit some of these. Let's try and hit the ball picker out there. All right. Or let's try and, maybe you set up like a practice station with balloons or something, or you set up a tower of baskets and it's like, all right, let's try and knock over the baskets. And just reminding both the parents and the children that it is a game. And part of the reason why they started liking it to begin with was because they enjoyed that aspect of it. And when they start to lose that fun aspect is when they start to really burn out.
James, how do you, Sean's asking sort of, you may have covered maybe a little bit of this, but how do you defining each level? Like, is there anything in particular that you haven't covered that defines them? And what is elite? And Sean asked a good question behind that. What is elite? Do you allow junior to have more skills than their friends to stay in a lower level, or do they, or move up?
Yeah, I give that choice to them and their parents. And I let the parents know that it's one way or the other, which is their friends might be all better than him or her, but they want to be with their friends. So now you're kind of like, okay, it's okay if you're in with them, but understand that there are expectations in terms of what they're performing, not on yours, right? But they have expectations on their performance. So when they're practicing something, it's like, there'll be game time, there'll be competitions and stuff like that. But when they're working on something, you have to be working on what you need to work on while they're working on what they're working on. And then it also works the other way, where you got the one child who's really good, but all of their friends are not as highly skilled as them. And again, it's the same thing. It's, do you want to be up in the next group and away from your friends, or do you want to stay with your friends? And again, I outline all of the situations with the parents and with the child and let them know, for instance, if you move up to the next level, you're really going to be gaining some experience. You're going to be working on your game. You're going to be getting better and better. But if you're going to stay with your friends, that's okay, because you're going to have a lot of fun. You're with your friends and everything. But understand that you may not get as better, right? You may not get that rate of improvement that you're looking for as quickly as you want. And like I said, I let them make that decision. And in terms of what separates each level, we look at it basically just general skills. So for instance, the birdie program, when I do a skills assessment, I set up stations like chipping. All right, well, here's a circle, there's a 6-foot ring around the hole. And how many balls out of 10 do you chip into the hole or chip into the circle? Now, what I point out to the kids and the parents is that it's not a question of if you can do it correctly. I don't care if you top every single ball. I just want to know that you understand what chipping is. Like, and by that, I use the example of one child showed up and they were doing chipping and they pulled their driver out of their bag. So they're setting up with their driver and with their, like in a, like, so I thought, oh, maybe they like chipping with their driver, like chipping with a 3-wood or a hybrid. And then they set up and then they teed up the ball at the edge of the green. So that's all I'm looking for, is that do they understand the difference between chipping, pitching, et cetera, and how to set up that kind of stuff.
James, you mentioned, obviously, when we talk about junior golf, the hot word is parents. And Andrew Miles is asking a question on here. Do you ever do sessions educating the parents on the culture, learning environment, how they can be positive influence in that area?
All the time. And with Zoom meetings, it's actually a lot easier. Like what I used to do is I used to have one day, have all the parents come in, set up donuts and coffee and everything like that. And they would sit down, we'd talk for about 2 hours. I might have a guest speaker coming in or putting up some videos for the parents. But now I do it through Zoom, definitely, educating them on stuff. And one of the things that I've done is putting up videos, maybe clips from like the short game movie of parents and how they're talking to their kids. And basically not pointing any fingers, but saying, are any of you catching yourself, or any of you finding this all familiar at all in your relationship with your child, right? So when you see what it looks, when you see someone else doing it, do you kind of, oh boy, yeah, I didn't realize I look like that. And that kind of throws a little bit of cold water on them. They get it. But for the most part, that's been instrumental in creating that culture, that environment that I keep mentioning, because I'm letting the parents know, hey, listen, this is what you should be trying to do. Don't put so much pressure on your kid to be the best player. Don't worry if last week they were hitting the ball great and this week they're topping everything. It happens. And with some of the kids that are in the beginner program or the par program or the birdie program, it's the same thing. With those parents, it's more about, hey, they're really taking a liking to the game. What should we do next? What's your advice on what to do next? Right. So that's a little bit more general. Whereas as the skill level elevates, the information gets a little bit more detailed.
Matt Hoffman's asking a good one here. And I know besides PGA coach, as Matt mentions in the question here, TPI has talked about it too, but discouraging specializing in golf at a young age. So the question then is, how has this affected your approach to teaching kids? And if so, what other types of other activities are you doing with the students instead of more traditional golf?
Right. And I think I had an interesting conversation with Rob Holding about this. And we were in agreement in that you want to define what specialization is. Now, specialization, which is detrimental, is you're cutting everything else out and focusing specifically on golf. It's golf, 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 golf. You got to hit 1,000 balls a day. You got to make 100 3-footers in a row, like that. You got to have 6 lessons a week, all that kind of stuff. And cut everything else. No more baseball, no more hockey, whatever. That kind of specialization is horrible. Specialization where golf, let's say, is your main sport, but you're doing complementary activities, that's okay if you're going to define specialization that way, where, hey, 75% of my focus is on golf, but I also like doing other activities. And I emphasize that with my juniors, like the boy Ryan that I showed you with the flop shot. I kick him out, literally kick him out, because he's so into it. And now he's taking tennis. So he comes 2 days a week for golf, and he comes 2 days a week this time of the year for tennis. Right. So he's got that nice balance. And we joke around about it because all of a sudden he's hooking balls with his driver on the simulator. And it's like, I realized, I look at him like, you've been working on your topspin forehand lately? He goes like, yeah, how'd you know? I said, yeah, because your follow through looks like your topspin forehand and you're duck hooking every ball with your driver. He said, don't worry about it. It's okay. Right. Well, believe me, you'll fix it in 5 minutes. It's cool. Don't ruin your tennis. And in my programs, what I do is, and that was actually one of the videos I was going to show you, is I use other sports to help train for golf. So those of you that know who Arlen is, the little boy that I teach, one of the things that he's struggling, because he's going through a little bit of a growth spurt now, is that his right arm is very stiff and very straight on the downswing. So he's hitting a lot of balls like this. So what we do a lot of times is we just play catch. So that's like 10, 15 minutes of our lesson is throwing the ball around, throwing it against the wall. Can we bounce it against the wall? Stuff like that. I put something like a target on the floor, and then he has to bounce it on that target, bounce it against the wall, catch the ball. So we're doing stuff like that. And when we're outdoors in season, yeah, I actually have a couple of baseball stations set up. I've got the Skills Hurricane thing set up. I know Liam Mucklow likes that. And I have another one that's a baseball station, a tennis station as well. So yeah, definitely cross-referencing sports.
One more on here for you, James. And I think this certainly applies to some people who just don't have the opportunity to have a range tee or a golf course. Is if they're stuck on a driving range, any thoughts to games, ideas, things you've done where we're strictly in sort of a hitting tee line, that kind of situation? Obviously not the best situation, maybe given what you've taught us today, but we got to find a way to deal with it. So how do we keep the kids entertained, and any games you might think of there?
Yeah, definitely. I've thought the same thing. It's so it also depends on, do you have one stall, like you're only allowed to use one teaching stall, or do you have like a couple of stalls that you can use for a period of time? But what you can do is if you can put targets out in front of your stall, maybe you have little rings or little baskets, something you can put out there, pool noodles, and doing things like that where you're chipping or pitching. And sometimes what we do is we do leapfrog where like, I'll chip a ball out there, and wherever that ball ends up, that's now the landing spot. So now the junior has to chip their ball and land it as close as possible as where my ball is. And now wherever their ball rolls to, that's now my landing spot. And we're doing that all over the place, kind of like hopscotching it. But yeah, definitely if you can put out little targets in front of you, in front of your stall, your teaching stall, that's going to be really helpful. If you can, ask for permission, if you can actually go out further out, let's say 100 yards, 150 yards, and put up little pool noodle targets, you can always do that and just kind of play little games. I know John Dunnigan does that at his place. And like, all right, if you can hit this ball between the blue pool noodle and the flag, you get 1 point. If you can put it between the orange and the flag, 2 points, stuff like that. But there's always ways to do stuff.
James, how long typically are some of your sessions? Do they vary? Like, what's a typical session length?
For the groups, the spring and the fall ones are an hour and a half long, and the summer ones for the little kids are 3.5 hours, and for the big kids are 4 hours. And then for the advanced kids that come in the summer, theirs is 4 hours long.
Okay, awesome. All right, man. So last thing before we let you get out of here, just real quick, any you mentioned sort of some of the other programs out there, but any favorite training aids that you like or use? And by the way, everybody on here hopefully is following James on social media, because it's a real easy way to learn a lot just by watching what he posts. But any favorite training aids, James?
Yeah, I think the ones that are out there now, if you're talking specifically for juniors, those of you who found me, I think I teased it the other day. There's this thing, new speed training aid called the Stack System. That's really good. It's, similar to Speed Sticks. It's got protocols for you to follow. What I like about it is that it's personalized. Instead of everyone just following the same protocols, it's based on what your numbers are. It'll create a protocol for you to follow, what to practice. Really simple practice. And on top of it, if your numbers are deviating, meaning let's say you're not improving well enough, maybe your numbers are lower than they should be, the protocol automatically changes to adjust to that. Or if you're doing better than expected, it'll change as well. That's one thing. It's still stuff like pool noodles, hula hoops. I've tried some other things out there, and it's funny, like the kids, they get it. Little kids get it. They look at it and they're like, oh, this is fun. And then 5 minutes, they're like, what's this got to do with golf? Right? Because remember, why are they there? They want golf. They're interested in golf. Now, sometimes they're not there. Maybe they're being forced to be there, right? Which was another thing. It's how do you deal with someone who maybe doesn't want to be there? They're being forced to take a lesson from you. It's that's an issue for another day, unfortunately. Or you could ask me about that and I can answer back. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Well, and by the way, I won't normally do this, but we do talk about that. So for those of you who want to hear some stuff that maybe we didn't cover about what James just talked about and parents and some other things, he was on my podcast, Driving Improvement. So I wouldn't normally plug it on here, but I think for a lot of you, it will be helpful, because I had a lot of my questions that I had here that he got into about some of that stuff. So it's probably a good listen for a lot of you, because we get into some of that, dealing with parents and kids who don't want to be there. A lot of the difficult situations that we all have to run into time to time with juniors. And that stack system, that's Sasha McKenzie's thing, correct, James?
Yeah, it was created by Sasha McKenzie and Marty Jertson from Ping.
Okay.
So you're talking about two smart guys, and it's pretty good.
Well, thanks for that plug, because besides next Monday, we have Mark Blackburn on. The March 8th is our virtual MAPGA Teaching Summit. You can sign up at mapga.com, and Marty Jertson and Sasha McKenzie will be on with us, as well as Dr. Scott Lynn and Mike Romatowski from Mach 3, and Tim Campbell from Iconic Golf. Iconic and Ping are sponsoring. So, and it's a low price of $10. So I'm not sure you're going to find that kind of firepower for $10. It's running from about 8:45 to 2 o'clock PJ members. And somebody just asked, missed the name of the speed training system, the Stack system. Do you have one? You have one there, James?
Yeah. This is what it looks like.
See, James is special. He got one early because they're like pre-order. So that's how.
This part comes off and you change the weights in here. This is a weight kit.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, James, hey man, thanks as always. Just a ton of knowledge. I hope everybody follows James, reach out to him. You're going to get better because of it. I really appreciate you joining us, buddy. Thanks as always.
Like I said, please, if you have more questions, if I wasn't clear about something, send me a message. I'll answer back.
Awesome. Everybody, thanks so much for jumping in. Email me if you want to join us for Blackburn next week. Hopefully he'll be on at 1. We're just going to confirm that. Otherwise, shoot me an email and we'll look forward to seeing you all on the next one. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it.